Okay, I think we're just going to give this a shot. Good morning, afternoon, or evening to you, wherever you're listening from. My name is Russell Reese. Today is May 2nd, 2026, and you are listening to the Nashville Sports Report. Okay, now before we dive into this too much, I do want to just give a little background on myself. I am a Nashville native, a long-time, long-suffering sports fan here in the area, who was recently given some podcast equipment by his wife, who's a very encouraging and supportive person, but also sick and tired of hearing me talk sports. My hope is that I could use this as an outlet, but also as a way to build a little bit of community with you guys out there. I'd love to hear from you, love to talk to you. Generally, the plan is sort of recap the weekend sports that has happened, look ahead to the next week, and just talk ball a little bit. I do want to mention I probably won't do much talking about gambling, as I'm not a gambler myself. I might occasionally refer to a spread just as a way to sort of quantify a game, but that's about it. Okay, if you want to reach out, want to connect on Blue Sky and Twitter at NSH Sports Report, that's Nash Sports Report. Email NashvilleSportsReport@gmail. And without further ado, let's dive right in. So, starting with the Titans. Big week with the Titans. Had a draft last weekend, as you're probably aware. Started off with a surprise for everyone, taking Carnell Tate at number 4. Leading up to the draft, a lot of fans were interested in Jeremiah Love or Reese or Styles, some of the other ballers out of OSU, but I feel good about this pick. Tate is sure-handed, smooth, no drops last year. He's given Ward exactly what he needs, a downfield target, somebody he can rely on, a little bit of F it, Tate's down there somewhere kind of thing. A lot of people have said, well, is he really a number one? He wasn't a number one in college because of Jeremiah Smith, but frankly, as a Titans fan, I don't really care. Have you seen the history of our wide receivers? If he can be just one of the better wide receivers in recent Titans history, I think that's a W and totally worth investing in our fledgling star quarterback, Cam Ward. So very happy with that pick. Later in the evening, the Titans traded back into the first round to pick up Keldrick Falk, a defensive end from Auburn. This guy seems like a classic Robert Saleh kind of guy. In fact, Saleh said as much during his press conference, talking about a history of working with similar players. He's 6'6", he's like 270, big dude, young, plays all over the line, did whatever he was asked of at Auburn. That was something that sort of happened with both of these guys, high character guys, willing to do what they needed to for the team. Tate was a prime blocker. Falk went into inside play last year for a really kind of terrible Auburn team, but did what they asked him to. Probably sacrificed some of his numbers, but both these guys are young. They play premium positions, the kind of places where you're not really going to be able to trade for or get a wide receiver or a top-notch defensive end anywhere else but the draft. A lot of teams aren't cutting loose their star wide receivers, their star defensive ends. And having both these guys in the first round gives the Titans a fifth-year option on them, too. So I think both of these pickups are really good pickups. Very excited to see what happens with them. The next day, day 2 of the draft, the Titans traded back into the back end of the second round to get in front of Denver, I believe it was, to take Anthony Hill, the linebacker from Texas. This kid is big, fast, he turns the ball over. I think he's going to end up being that Fred Warner role for the Titans, wearing the green dot, kind of the quarterback of the team. Another player to be really excited about. Seems like Mike Bergonzi was given Robert Saleh, somebody he specifically asked for, so it was exciting to see that. I think it's fair to expect Tate, Hill, and Falk to all contribute to some extent this year. Tate's going to get thrown a lot of balls. He'll be on the field, probably at Cody Barton's detriment. And Falk will be part of that wave that Sala likes to have of defensive linemen getting in there. I think Sala said that in his press conference he plans to have Falk on the edge, first early down, setting the edge against the run, and then kicking him inside on passing downs. So it'll be exciting to see how that plays out. Day 3, guys. Titans did a lot of neat housework here. Started off picking up Fernando Carmona, a guard out of Arkansas. Frankly, the only time I'd ever heard of this guy before this draft was an infamous incident in a bowl game against Liberty where he stepped on an opposing player's ankle while he was in the pile. Looked very dirty watching the video. It's not great, but I was really impressed by Carmona's answer in his introductory press conference when he was asked about this. He didn't try and shrug it. He didn't try and avoid it. He took accountability, talked about how embarrassed he was. You really, a stand-up answer. He's not going to be able to erase the incident, but I think the way that he addressed it, at least the other day, was a really encouraging sign. Shows some character, shows some growth from that incident. Kind of reminds me of the fact that Jeffrey Simmons had an incident that a lot of people were questioning when the Titans drafted him a few years ago. I think oftentimes we forget that these are really young guys, and they're still in the midst of growing and learning. And I was really impressed by Carmona's answer, and I'm excited to see him see what he can do for the Titans. We certainly need some help at guard, and maybe he can be that guy. The next pick that the Titans made on day 3 was Nicholas Singleton, running back out of Penn State. This is a player I'm very excited about. He's very fast, hits the holes hard. I think he was one of the top players coming out of high school when he got recruited to Penn State. With both Pollard and Spears on their last years of their contracts, Singleton, if he can establish himself, could definitely be the future of the Titans at running back. And frankly, somebody that I am going to probably target in rookie dynasty fantasy drafts. Although I hope not to talk too much about fantasy football. I feel like fantasy football, hearing people talk about fantasy football is like hearing people talk about their dreams. Unless you really care about that person, it's just boring. All right, moving on. Next, the Titans picked up Jackie Marshall, a defensive end from Baylor. I think this was a really unexpected pick. Everybody sort of felt like during free agency and then getting Falk early in the draft, the Titans have a lot of bodies, a lot of numbers on the defensive line, but Sala loves to have what he calls his waves of linemen rolling in on the D line, and getting Marshall in a late round, I think it was a 6th round pick, just add another big body to that. He seems really athletic. Excited to see what they can do with him. A little bit later in the 6th round, the Titans selected Pat Coogan, center from Indiana, reigning national championship. And frankly, this guy just looks like a stereotypical lineman. Like if you created a lineman in a lab, it might be Pat Coogan. Just big slab of a guy. Was actually the MVP of the Rose Bowl this year. It's like the first time any linemen have been MVP at the Rose Bowl since like the 40s or something, which is an incredibly impressive feat. And if you haven't had a chance, go listen to some of his game time speeches, firing up his guys. A lot of curse words, but I could see why people want to play with this guy. He seems like a heck of a leader, and excited to have him on board. Honestly, I think between him and Carmona, it seems like Coogan may really have the real shot to have a longer term and positive future on the line. We need a center. Titans need a center. If Coogan can be that guy, this could be an incredible steal in the 6th round. More Mike Bergonzi magic. Lastly, in the 7th round, Titans picked up Jaron Kanak, a tight end out of Oklahoma. This guy was a converted linebacker, spent 1 year at tight end this past season, and managed to catch over 500 yards receiving, which is just crazy numbers for any tight end in college. Seems like a flyer, but somebody that can contribute on special teams in the meantime. And if he can build his craft sitting behind Helm and Bellinger, he could be a real steal. And then after the draft, the Titans brought in, I think it ended up being 11 UFDAs, undrafted free agents. The one I'm most excited about, and maybe it's the Titans fanboy in me, you got to have one project receiver per offseason in traditional Titans fashion, is Tyron Montgomery, a wide receiver from John Carroll, a D3 school. He's a former basketball player who walked on at LSU, ended up, I think, catching some footballs during COVID times from his younger brother, who's a quarterback. Was encouraged by his brother to really give football a go, and just took the D3 world by storm. I think he recorded something like 32 touchdowns and 2,600 or 2,800 receiving yards over 2 years. Some crazy numbers. Anyways, he went to the Senior Bowl this offseason and looked like he belonged. If you watch some of the tape, some of the Senior Bowl highlights, you can really see his basketball skills. Dude really gets up, attacks the ball at a high point. Very exciting player. Kind of like Kanak, another one of these guys. If you can get him, give him a year or two, let him grow and learn, it could be a real steal. Really exciting player. Outside of that, there were a couple of offensive tackles and some defensive backs, a safety, and I think a couple of cornerbacks who seem like they may have a shot at breaking into the roster, just given the lack of depth that the Titans have at those positions. So it'll be exciting to see what happens in August during training camp. But before that, rookie minicamp started this week. Thursday, the players reported, and yesterday was the first day of rookie minicamp. Saleh said in his press conference yesterday that he has seen guys get injured coming out of sort of the long hustle and bustle of the whole draft process. And so they're not really going to push the players very much. So it'd be surprising to see much, if any, news coming out of rookie minicamp this weekend. I think we'll really get our first glimpses and really start to understand what these players are when the Titans report with vets for OTAs. That starts May 18th, and that'll kind of be, I think, the first real chance to understand what we're looking at. Lastly, in Titans news this week, Chad Brinker, former president of football operations, announced that he will be leaving the organization. Frankly, this sounds like somebody who got a little too high on the org chart and realized that once you get too high up in any business, you're not really doing your craft anymore. It's just all business. This is a guy that wants to scout players, but ended up in the C-suite. And based on his remarks and the sort of mutual parting that came down, I think that, he realized that he wants to get back to his roots and scout players, which is something he sort of ceded to Mike Bergonzi when he moved into that sort of upper echelon within the organization. Chad has been around, oversaw some really dark times in Titans history, but I do think he's also kind of responsible for bringing in Mike Bergonzi and Robert Saleh, sort of indirectly through Bergonzi, and putting this team sort of back on the right direction. So, best of luck to Chad, and I hope he's able to find a role that suits him better. I'm sure he will. Imagine somebody will snap him up pretty quickly. Okay, now moving on to Nashville SC. They had busy last week. Last Saturday, the Boys in Gold beat Charlotte here at home 4-2 on Star Wars night. I don't know why I'm excited about that. I mean, like Star Wars, but yeah. Anyways, it was never really in doubt. They had a pretty bad defensive lapse on the first Charlotte goal off a set piece. Didn't mark anyone on the back end of the post. And then Pat Beal just knocked a wonder goal in from outside the box. But, NSC was never really challenged in this game. Ahmad Qasim had a goal and an assist, hopefully his real coming out party. Took care of business before heading into Tuesday's major match with Tigres, the first leg of the CONCACAF Champions Cup semifinal. This is rare air for NSC. This is rare air for any MLS teams, really. It's not very often that they are getting this far. Hopefully it'll be more commonplace. But went into it, weather delay, as those in Nashville know. We had quite a bit of storms Monday night, and then Tuesday evening, the game was delayed by about an hour. Once the game got rolling, though, it was clear that this was a different level of soccer than that NSC has played previously. Tigres, for lack of a better term, knows the CONCACAF dark arts. They knew how to get under Nashville's skin, knew how to sort of play the game within the game, and it looked faster, looked just more composed, looked like they'd been there before, which they have. I think they're 7-time CONCACAF champions. And you could tell this was sort of the first match this year where NSC has looked, and frankly, outclassed. Um, yeah, it was a learning experience. I kept thinking it seemed a lot like NHL playoffs when you get a new team getting into the playoffs for the first time, facing an experienced sort of veteran team that knows how to step their game up and knows what's expected and can take their game to that level. I absolutely think NSC has the ability. They were hurt, of course, by the announcement that Sam Surridge was going to be out. Looks like he picked up a knock right at the end of the Charlotte game. And that was a huge, huge blow to the team. And then Eddie Tagseth also going out early, which was something that looked like a thigh or knee injury within like 20 minutes. Those were two major blows, stuff that wasn't expected or accounted for. But I do think that Nashville SC can rise to the occasion. They can learn how to bring their game to this level. They can play the CONCACAF style. They can brute force a win if need be. It may be a very, very tough hill to climb this coming Tuesday in Monterrey, but not impossible. There's a shot. I'll be tuning in through a VPN and checking it out and hoping the boys can pull one out. This is probably the best squad that they've ever had. I mean, definitely, really, it is the best squad they've had in their short history. And, frankly, their results, what they can do this season, they may start pushing the old President's Cup team, Nashville Predators team, for best professional sports season ever. So, Tuesday is going to tell us a lot about what this team is, what they're made of. They will probably still be without Sam Surridge, and they will also probably be without Eddie after the injury. They are, in the meantime, up in Philadelphia tonight for a 6:30 Central Time kickoff against a woeful Philadelphia Union side. Again, without Sam or Eddie. But frankly, this should be a nice, easy tune-up. I'm not playing the game, so... well, far be it for me to say, but I fully expect a heavily rotated squad to still go out there and handle their business. I'm liking a 3-1 win for NSC. Going to call goals from Kasum, Warren Madrigal, and then Haney getting off the bench late to put the final dagger in a Union side that just has lost a lot of talent over the season, playing a lot of young guys, and just isn't what we're used to seeing from the Philadelphia Union. But that should be a fun game to watch tonight and a great tune-up before Tuesday's massive, massive match down in Mexico. All right, now on to the Predators. Not a lot of action with the Preds since the season recently ended, although they did announce that they have signed a coveted KHL center named Vitaly Pinchuk to a 1-year entry-level contract. This guy is a point-per-game player in the KHL. Seems like a lot of teams in the NHL were trying to sign him. An exciting prospect. I wonder how Barry was even able to get this guy to sign, given sort of all the turmoil at the organizational level. And while I'm excited about him, I also remember the hype behind Steve Moses coming in many years ago. Guy was crushing it over there, rocking up the points. And I think they just ended up waiving him after like half a year. So would love to see what happens with Pinchuk. It'd be great if we could add another skilled center, especially if we could pan out into a top 6 line, 1 or 2. It'd be amazing. But in the meantime, just going to hold off any sort of speculation because, frankly, we've been burned before. Also on the Preds front, it sounds like former Preds captain and New Jersey Devils GM Tom Fitzgerald is a front runner for the open GM position. Seems like the Preds, based on reporting, have narrowed it down to a handful of guys. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear something soon, an announcement about whoever it is they decide to give the role to, just so they can get out in front of some of these other open GM positions. You know, there's some really attractive ones out there now, like Toronto, for example. You know, the Preds have had quite some time with theirs being the only opening, and I think they will probably want to go ahead and get their guys signed in, whoever that might be, very, very soon. So I would not be surprised if we hear in the next week or two an announcement about who is going to be the new GM of the Nashville Predators. Okay, lastly, the Nashville Sounds are currently 16-15, finishing off a homestand today and tomorrow before they head on the road next week into Louisville for 6 games. And then they will be back in town a week from Tuesday. That'll be May 12th, when they will be starting a 6-game homestand. That's, I guess, how they do it in the minor leagues these days. Versus the Iowa Cubs. It should be the perfect time to go catch a baseball game downtown. You know, not too hot, not too many mosquitoes. You can also play a little bit of putt-putt if you need to. And that's the week in sports. Anyways, thank you so much for listening. My name is Russell Reese. Again, I'd love to hear from you. Would love to talk about your sports experience in Nashville. Any thoughts, any feedback. Would love to have some folks on for just some conversations, chit-chat. Feel free to reach out. Again, it's at NSH Sports Report on Blue Sky and Twitter, and Nashville Sports Report at gmail.com. I hope to be putting out an episode a week over the weekends, and look forward to talking with you again soon. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great weekend.